Vale, seguimos el...
Let's continue. Let's continue with the workshop. For today's workshop, I had brought more stuff than I think we'll be able to discuss. So my proposal is the following. I'm going to skip interfaces. I will go over it quickly now, and I'll give you the references so that you can find your way around the Unity documentation. And I will work with your devices. Is anyone here not bringing an Android or an iPhone? Android? Okay. Have you got SDK installed in your machine? You do have it in your PC. Would you like to download your program on the iPhone or on the iPad? I'll explain how we do this in the case of iPhones and iPads, or similar. There's a little bit of a problem, i.e. the certificates. Let me tell you about the problem, let me tell you about how we can download that there, and if you have a license we can try it. If not, we will have to stick to theory, and I'll tell you why. So my proposal is the following. I would go over the interfaces, and I think that what you've seen so far in terms of programming, if you've been able to understand what the link between sheer programming is with Unity's interfaces and how objects relate to each other, then it's easy to introduce new concepts through the documents and the handbooks and the APPI references. But first of all, I wanted to show what Unity's website tells us about references and manuals and documents. At the community tab, you have the following chapters. Fora. They're very active. They usually answer quite quickly. If you have questions, doubts, technicalities, and so on, technical issues about programming or a specific device, you can go there. Very often, you'll find the answer, and if you don't find any documents or any answers, you can post something and you'll probably get a quick response. Answer is like the Stack Overflow. It's very similar. It's very similar to the Stack Overflow. And this is for problems, issue tracker. And then we have documentation. Documentation. It's very extensive. Maybe the problem that I see here is that it's not very well structured. It's almost like a list of things. But sometimes when you go to Google and you check Google Concepts, it will refer you to this. You can browse around the structure of the document and try to find what you're looking for, or through Google you can access this directly. These are explanations about how it works internally. Concepts such as how the physics driver works, rigid body positioners, and so on. These documents are technical documents about how Unity works internally and how it should be used. And from the point of view of programmers, these are Unity concepts, programming concepts. Unity might work with, well, there's a group of people who work from well, they could have designers or programmers, and designers might know nothing about code. But this is documentation addressed to both target groups, and it explains how Unity works internally. From the point of view of a programmer, we also have the API, and this is rather detailed. If you go to the search box, we used a category, a class, which was vector3 in the previous exercise. So you have a list of all the classes at the at the unit library are here. Their features, properties, where they come from, parameters, and so on. If you click a function, they usually come with examples. Vector 3, for instance, here you see the description, parameters, how to use it, and a bit of an example, a bit of a code for an example. This is basic. When you codify your scripts, because you have the references here, if you don't remember exactly which function and what it was called, even if you have the editor, which is rather smart and self-completes the different functions, here you have the explanation of what it does, the different parameters, and a full description of that. Why am I saying this? Because now we will quickly go over the different interfaces that Unity has. These are references to the documentation, to the manual, and then we could go and start playing with the devices, which is more adapted to what we really want today, because we're running out of time.
De Unity. Vale. La versió free permet publicar.
Version allows you to publish whatever you want in browser, Windows, Mac, and I'm not sure about Linux though. And it also allows you to publish in iPhone, iOS, Android, Windows Phone, and BlackBerry. However, some of the functions are limited for the normal version. If you want to work in Teams, there's a very interesting function. It's a sort of a repository that you can have on the internet, and where you would have a synchronized project in the internet. It's called Asset Resource, I think, or Asset Versioning, and it's only for the Pro version. It allows you to work with a team. Instantiating objects from the internet is only available at the Pro version, so I would say that if you have the basic, you would be able to do things in platform Xbox, PlayStation, and so on. You would need a Pro license plus the license from the hardware manufacturer, and you will be able to publish things in any way. If you want to publish iOS, you need a license, but that's an Apple thing. It has nothing to do with Unity. There's a list. I don't think I have explained this very clearly, maybe, but there's a list for all this. In practice, we don't need it, but there are some functions which are really good. Functionalities which are good, and you don't find them always, like camera filters, shaders, functionalities for teamwork. There are more pro teams. If you are working with a large team and you want to do something more serious, more seriously, then you would miss it. But roughly, you would have 80% in the other version. To give you a quick example, if you want to put it in your device and you want to publish it and submit it to the distribution shops, then the free version is more than enough. Okay, let's now go around what Unity offers for graphic and interfaces, buttons, labels, sliders, and so on. First of all, native interfaces. Unity offers lots of native interfaces. They're easy to use, buttons, sliders, labels, and things that you typically use in a form or in a basic interface. These are things that they already have there. They have a special feature. They don't work with the camera in our scene. They work with coordinates from the screen. So we position the objects based on this location, 0, 0 up there, and then width and height, which is on the corners. It depends on how your device is like. You can do one thing or the other. This could be an advantage or a problem. The only reference you have are the corners, the sides, and then you can locate the objects around there. The advantage is that with very small amount of code, this is working, so, and it works well. so it's quick to use. Here, in the slides, you have a reference to the basic code. We started working with Wheeze, and there are some things that we need to know. Can we see from the back of the room? This is the basic pattern. We have a new class which inherits from mono behavior. Then we have another method called omGUI, which is similar to start or rotate, which is executed in a different execution queue. So Unity creates this one time per loop, and it draws the interaction elements. If we wanted, for instance, to paint a button on the screen, you can say GUI to the static object, and then it would create a rectangle with a level, which is a button with that label, level 1. And if you click there, then it would execute what we have within this bracket. You would have a true-false. This is enough. The problem is that you need to work with the screen coordinates, so you have to make a good layout of your form or your control device. And this is basically what it is. This is the good news. But as you need to work with layout coordinates, it's not always that easy. Let's have a look at an example. This is the project we have uploaded on the website. You can download it and have a look at it. And I'll show you how we can work with the different interfaces.
Va, això és un petit projecte que he fet, que és el que volia donar-vos d'exemple, que si
This is a small example that I had, and it's an example where we can see how we can touch objects, how to instantiate them, and how to calculate the length, the width, and the height of the place where we are. So these are just a few hints. And we can make it easy enough as for it to be understandable. So I have a controller here, and I wanted to add a box from the top corner to this corner to give me this label, then two buttons, reset and randomize. The reset will put all of the cubes flat, and the randomize will put them randomly. This should be familiar already. This is a reference to another script which is there in the scene called controller, and I will tell it. Okay, reset it or randomize based on the two buttons clicked. This code, what this code does is it paints the screen. It paints these two buttons on the screen. Regarding interfaces, but interfaces have a skins system that's really nice. By default, Unity is given a view, a standard view with gray colors and so on, but you can configure that. You can customize it and add images, colors, you name it. This is the default version, but you can change it. How do you change it? Well, by using something called WeSkins. And to create a WeSkin, you can click there, create this GUI skin. And for each type of GUI skins, we have all of this. For each one of them, we can configure 1,000 different things. The box would be a sort of a background, then we would have the buttons, the layers, the tabs, all these things. These are things which are already by default included in Unity. And then we can also change the features of each one of them. For instance, for a box, we can change the background color, the images. We can configure in each one of the events how this would react, hover, normal, and so on. And we can change the colors as well. So we have these buttons, the backgrounds, and whatever. And then I want to assign this to the skin I just defined. Okay, you just need to go to your code and define an attribute or a property called GUI skin, and from here on, the elements that will appear should be applied to this skin you have defined. So automatically, once you see that there has been a skin configured ad hoc for your scene, then you would add this and you could change the look of the buttons in whichever way you prefer, with colors, adding images and so on, and you can configure it as you prefer. It's easy to and you can work with the different window coordinates on the screen, and the Unity people say that this is not very efficient if you have to add lots of different elements, because then the graphic pipeline will have to be broken and it will introduce these things in a different way. This can compromise the performance at some points, but it could be interesting for you, or maybe not. So far, so good? I think that if we answer the first part, this consists of building up your knowledge. It's nothing out of this world. We're simply introducing some new concepts which are actually well described in the documentation of this program, of this software. If we look at the documentation, there is a very clear explanation of how this works, how the different classical interfaces work. It tells you how to work with them, how to do it, and I think that we can move on faster. Other important things that we need to know about interfaces. Well, that's a problem. Let's see. Sorry, we missed the question. This is a screen. Imagine this is an iPad and this is an old iPhone. 00 would be this. This will change, but you do have a value. There's a parameter, width and height. You can find out how much this measures, and you can adjust it with script. This is one of the inconveniences. There are other methods that will tell you, please adjust to the right, or arrange to the right, or arrange to the left, and then you can leave the things on the sides. But if you want to place it right in the middle, then you would have to calculate where the middle is, because it would depend on the device you're using. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the multi-touch and how it works. The purpose is to work with devices, so one of the features of these devices are their touch screen. A touch screen is almost like a mouse. It works exactly the same in the way you interact and you program events and you take events. It's just like a mouse. The problem is that we have many. We have like several mice working all at once. In a normal computer, as we only have a right hand, we would use just one mouse, but in a touch screen we work with different fingers at the same time. If you zoom in, zoom out, you need to two fingers. You need to interact with two mouse pointers. So if you have a mouse or a pointer, you would need to have the status of each one of them based on what the situation of that touch point is. You launch an event. You launch a state called begin. If it's the first time, then the finger has touched the screen. Then it moves. The first event that you would have, the first status of a touch point or a touch on a touch screen would be began. It would be began. So you have a finger on the screen. Then you would move. Then stationary means that you're touching the screen but you're not moving the finger. Ended, it means that you have lifted the finger and cancelled it because the operating system, Unity or whatever, has asked for the touch to be cancelled. When you touch the screen without lifting the finger, sometimes you leave the sensitive area. You have not lifted your finger, but you have left the area. In practice, both ended and cancelled is the same. So if you're moving the finger around, so ending and cancelling is basically the same. So you'll have to stop doing what you were doing. For you to see the code, this is an example. These are a couple of examples that you will find in the project that you can download. This is the string of code that needs to detect when a finger is touching the screen. This object, static object of Unity, helps us understand how many touches are active at that moment, not touches which have begun. If you have 3 fingers on your screen, here we should have a 3. Then you go around as much as you want, so many fingers on your screen, and then you would have this touch, which is the item that encapsulates the information about the state of that touch. If the phase is begin or began, it means that this is the first time that a finger is identified on the screen, then do something. And this is the important part. Give me the position of the touch, but at the same time, if the touch has got this attribute, which is important, if you want to track an object on the screen, or if you want to know what happened, you need to save that touch. And you need to know that finger number 1 is going to do this, and finger number 2 is going to do this other thing. So the finger ID guarantees that once a finger is given one ID, it will always have the same ID until you lift that finger. That's the way you track one finger, no matter how many fingers you have working actively on the screen. This is simple. It's simpler with the mouse. You only have one mouse, and events are simpler. But it says if a button is clicked, that will be the same as the touch has begun. Then do whatever you want in that position. This will be the equivalent to this. However, this requires a little bit more code because we have more than one finger. That's the only complication that this entails. But if you want to implement a track and take an object and drag it across the screen, you need to understand what the touch identifier is, to ignore those that do not have the finger ID that you have saved, and then to follow the finger ID that you've tracked. And that means that you need to have an object with tags, with stats. Sorry, I guess that you all know about the states machine. So you need to have a machine with states. If a finger has touched the screen, you need to save which finger it is, and then you need to move on to another state, which is tracking. In each loop, I will consult whether of all the active fingers, I will take the one that has been saved and I will update the position. And that's how I move the object based on the position of that finger. And when the finger is lifted, then you would go here. This would be the set of states that an object would need to have if it has to control the movement of a finger. But it could be a little bit more complex. This would be a states machine for a pan or a zoom. For zooming, we use 2 fingers, and here the dynamics are a little bit more complex. We can't start zooming until we have not started to track both fingers, and sometimes you have one finger touching first and then the second finger touching a little bit later, or you can have both fingers simultaneously. So if you have the 2 of them, you do a pan. Pan means a lateral dragging of the screen. And then what happens? You can either lift one of the fingers or you can start zooming, and then you need to track the distance between the 2 fingers because it varies, and then you would have to modify whichever is necessary. If you free one of the 2 fingers, then you would have to come back to this waiting state.
Ah, sí. Qué raro. ¿Cómo? ¿Sale bien o no? Vale, vale. Però no, però és cosa del PDF o què?
No, però si faig servir l'script plugin del navegador, doncs no ho veig.
Vale, vale. Aviam, això requereix una mica més de codi, perquè d'alguna manera has de...
A little bit of a longer code, because you need to calculate the distance between the 2 fingers when you start it, and based on the change, depending on whether you are increasing or decreasing the distance, you will zoom in or zoom out and calculate the amount of zoom. But to implement a more elaborate interaction than the ones provided by Unity, you will have to implement your own interaction controllers, be it dragged or because you're interacting in a different way. The typical ones would be pan and zoom, and you need to implement these states machines, that machine that will interact with the different fingers.
Vale. ¿Alguna pregunta sobre interfaces?
About interfaces, or should we now start working with the devices?
Comencem pel cas complicat, que és Apple. Vale?
We'll start with the difficult case, which is Apple. As a matter of fact, Apple doesn't want you to install your programs on any device. They want to have control over the programs that you include or install on your device. So you could take your iPhone, carry out a jailbreak, and, well, you crash the operational system, and you can execute any code. But you have to have a normal device, and on any iPhone there is a security mechanism which refers to a digital signature that needs to be authorized by Apple. So this is in the case of all Apple devices. What does this mean? This means that you need an Apple authorized digital signature. This costs about €80 a year, and you have this authorization, this digital signature. With this certificate you can sign any app. This is the system in order to deploy the program to Apple. And then you need 3 things to create an app and deploy it to Apple. Your certificate, for which you have to pay, an app ID, and then a device ID. So it's not enough for you to execute an Apple authorized code, but you have to say to which devices you will deploy your code. So you have to have this authorized code and deploy it to devices that are authorized by you. So you have to specify everything. You have to tell Apple, I will deploy this authorized code here to this authorized device. Once your program is finished and you want to post it on Apple Store, well, this disappears. But when you are in the development phase, they require a list of authorized devices from you. So it's a kind of digital signature chain, and all of the different links of the chain have to be well authorized. So all these signatures are bundled in what they call the app provisioning. It's just a container consisting of these 3 digital signatures. When you execute then, or try to execute or install a program on your own device, this file here, because this app provisioning is a file, will give the permission to execute the program. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it.
Llavors, perquè veieu una mica l'exemple,
I'll show you an example for you to see a little bit what I mean.
aquest és el portal dels desarrolladors de iOS.
We've got the iOS Developers Portal. Here you've got downloads of operating systems, or everything you need to run iOS. And here you've got on the right certificates and profiles. And this is the part we are interested in. Certificates here. In this case, I've got 2. The distribution one, which allows me to post apps on the App Store, and the development one, which allows me to sign all the apps to deploy them to my device. And then I've got a list of devices. This is the list of iPads, iPhones, of friends, relatives, etc., to which I want to authorize the execution. You can look for this code here through Xcode. This is a unique, specific code per each device.
Si engegeu l'Xcode, us aneu a la finestra...
So if you go onto Xcode, you will find the identifier of the device here. This is the code you're looking for. This is a pain in the ass, but that's the way it is. Apple wants to have control over all the devices to which you will deploy your app. What you mean is for developers. When you publish your app on App Store, this disappears. 2 certificates, right? Yes. But when you pay the €80, both certificates are included. These are digital certificates.
Sí, pero bueno, al
You
principi...
can have as many as you would, yeah, but by paying €80 you get this too. This one here allows you to sign apps from your computer and deploy them to wherever you want, and the second one allows you to publish your app on App Store. So there were 3 things, as I said before: the digital signature, you pay and you get the certificate to sign up, and then the app ID, if you remember. This is just about baptizing the apps, really giving a name, naming the apps that you want to deploy to your device.
Va, en principi... demana compres un petit formulari que, bueno,
Out a short formula, a short form or questionnaire.
això senzillament el que és crear un identificador.
By doing this, you create an identifier, you generate a tiny file, and that's what you sign later. So you sign this together with the Apple authorized certificate and the list of devices. These are a series of signatures that you need. So from now on, we've got our app authorized, and we have to now prepare the bundle, which includes the digital certificate, the app ID, plus the device list. And this is the provisioning, as we called it. So you say, yes, I want to develop, that is to develop an app. You have to choose the app for which you want to generate the bundle of all these digital signatures.
Arriba. Aquí, vale. Després et diu sobre quin certificat ho vols fer, com que pots treure.
You have to choose the certificate you want to work with, and finally you've got this device list on which you want to develop the app, and you can select them all, for example. Now you name the profile and you generate it.
I aquí et diu que te'l descarreguis. Bueno, en realitat,
You can download it, your provisioning profile. Well, actually, in the new version, you don't have to download it anymore. It is automatically downloaded if necessary. Otherwise, well, here on the Apple portal, we are done, and we have named the app, if you remember. Here. That what really matters. This will allow us to tell Unity which is the Apple app that corresponds to it. So how do we get this app to be executed with, or this project here to be executed with the app identifier that we just generated? This is a new menu to you, and I will briefly explain it to you. Here we've got all the ports to which we can export our game, program, you name it. These ones here are limited because you need a license by the manufacturers. And regarding the rest of the list, you can publish. But you can only publish once. You have to choose here the device you want. In this case, we will go for iOS. And then we have to set it up. We have to tell it which is the app we are referring to. So here you go to bundle identifier and you have to include the app ID that we have signed up on the Apple portal that we have just generated. And that's how we associate all the digital signatures and our project. If this is well done and the setup on Apple portal is fine too, and all these certificates are well set up, then we just go to mute and run, and here we start this process. Automatically the Xcode is activated, and what it is doing right now is, okay, you've asked me to compile an app for XYZ project. I will browse my signature database. If it's not there, I will connect automatically to the Apple portal and browse there. And if it's not well configured, well, it would trigger a mistake, an alarm, and you would have to mend it. So this process can be longer or shorter depending on the case. It's a little bit complicated because Apple really poses a lot of limitations and barriers. But if everything is well done, well, it should work. So why is it worthwhile going on and publishing on App Store? Well, because they include many millions of devices and it's a huge market. So, well, it really depends on whether you're willing to pay €80 a year or not.
Vale, anem a veure ara com es posa en un Android.
Okay, let's move on to Android now. It's much easier. The only problem is that you need the SDK. If you've got the SDK installed, good for you, because the only thing that you will have to do is to configure the following. You go to Unity Preferences, and there's an option which are external tools. And here, you've got Android SDK location. You need to configure this. And this needs to be associated with the root of SDK. So you need to have something like what you're seeing on screen right now. Could you do it again, someone asked? Okay, let's go back. I go to Unity, Preferences, External Tools, Android SDK.
I aquí apareix...
And here, do you see it from the back? The problem is that I don't have the specific address for all your computers. Is it working? Okay, another thing you need is to activate the book mode on Android devices, and this really is dependent upon each device. There is no golden rule of thumb for this. Have you got it activated, Sergi? Can I check yours out?
Aquest és el nou sistema operatiu.
New operating system.
Sí, però és que depèn del dispositiu, s'activa d'una manera o d'una altra. No, tots...
It really depends on the device.
Però és que no sé com va això, hòstia. No està la configuració. Ajustes. Ah, vale, sí, és això, no? No sé on està. On està, tio? No ho trobo. Falta això. Aquestes són les instruccions genèriques de com activar el que es demana.
These are the general instructions for you to activate what we need to activate on our Android device. It really depends on each device, so you have to look for the right option. This you can find it on the Unity webpage. You can look at these instructions and see if they work for you or not.
No, només el USB de book. Sí. Sí està. Vale. És que a més ho tens en
Turn on the USB debugging.
Val, teniu els Androids?
You got your Android ready with your SDK installed. Have you downloaded the example project, the test project, to install it on your Android?
Sí. ¿Te lo abre? ¿Cómo? ¿El que te has descargado de internet?
Sí, mira. Me vengo aquí. Este es el que me he descargado, ¿no? Color Touch, selecciono la carpeta.
Ya está, open.
Open. Le digo. Ahora, ¿ves?
No, pero vete a escenas. Ya abre la... ¿Sí? Vale, anem avançant. Si algú té problemes amb...
Let's move on. If you've got problems with your Android, I will go round in a minute, or with Apple. But it would be interesting to start working with your devices, because Unity does not imitate the finger touches. You have to do it with the mouse. And I would like you to try out and test some properties. For example, you have the accelerometer, which spots the tilt. Then you have geolocation to spot and detect height, etc. So there are a series of properties or attributes that you have to try out on your device. Android. You click on Switch Platform, and this triggers a process, because sometimes it has to transform textures, etc.
A projects hi ha com una estructura...
To projects, you will find a directory structure, and if you click on scenes, you will find the main file, and you should see this. But, well, you don't need that, actually.
La plataforma Android. Sí, ja he configurat prèviament l'SDK d'Android i ho tenia tot...
The Android SDK is well set up and everything is more or less configured. You unclick Google Android Project, and then you click on Build and Run.
Quan copieu els programes dintre del dispositiu ha d'estar desbloquejat, saps?
Copy programs on your device, it needs to be, it doesn't have to be blocked, otherwise you're not giving it permission to copy it. So from now on, this is quite similar to the process with Apple. It just builds the bundle and it sends it to the device if the device is on. I don't know if this will work for them, Sergi, which are the USB drivers.
Per què? Pels drivers? Però jo he provat amb els Androids que tinc a casa i anava bé. I... Vale. Vale. Sí, sí. Ell? Has de desempaquetar-lo. Te'n vas al Unity, dius abrir i a l'arrel del projecte. Vale, clica.
Val?
No, però...
Abans?
No, des del Unity l'has d'obrir.
Estic al Unity.
Vale.
És Open Existing Project.
Sí. Aquí. Bueno, demana, què vols fer amb això? És que ho tenies abans. Salva.
Sí.
Vinga, va.
Vale, sí. He seleccionat la carpeta.
Sí. No és un fitxer en concret. És la carpeta que conté tot i cap endavant, sí. Llavors no pots, Sergi? Vale, sí, ha ido, ¿no?
Lo que pasa es que aquí de sensor no lo habéis puesto.
No, pero veremos ahora cómo hacerlo.
Aquí, he fet el build, no?
Vale? No, build and run.
Build and run. I ja el passa...
Sí, però l'has de tenir desbloquejat, ben configurat, amb allò de l'USB de book.
Sí, jo suposo que sí.
Vale, sí, exacte. I li has de donar... Sí, vale. Sí. I ara creu els dits que els drivers vagin bé. És que hi ha un problema de drivers també.
No, reconèixer el reconegut.
Va, doncs l'ha de ficar. Això és... Aviam, a la pàgina de Unity... Mira. Sí, ho expliquen com ho pots fer. Aquí et donen alguns tips sobre com...
Unity web page, you get some tips on how to set up Windows and regarding USB drivers issues. You can get an explanation there. If you've got a Mac, you don't need any driver. Yours is a Samsung.
Solo carga.
Però i tens lo de USB de book.
¿Lo has puesto en modo?
Sí, lo he puesto, mira. Dispositivo, depuración activada.
Desconéctalo y vuelve a conectar. ¿Te ha salido una pantallita que te ha dicho?
Tens els drivers o què? No pots. Tu volies ficar-lo en un iPhone?
Sí.
Però no tens certificat? No. Vale. No es pot. No. Són així de restringits. Amb Apple? Guai.
Tinc una aplicació, l'havia fet en casa, però l'he fet amb Eclipse i no sé ben bé en quina carpeta a dins del mòbil es pot posar directament.
No, però no ho has de ficar, ho fica ell.
Ho fica ell.
Sí, l'has de tenir desbloquejat.
Està desbloquejat tot.
Vale, si fas el switch, build and run,
I et diu,
vale, no li dius una carpeta que vulguis, és igual, la que sigui.
però a dins del...
Sí, crea una nova si vols.
Però
O...
a dins del mòbil o no?
No, en el teu espai de disc.
General de PK ja.
Sí, ja t'ho fa ell. Sí.
I te'l fica automàtic, i te'l copia directament aquí.
Sí, el problema és que Android, com que no és un sol fabricant, són molts, a vegades els drivers d'USB s'han de configurar, sobretot en Windows, i jo què sé, hi ha peculiaritats que són de cada dispositiu. Però el camí ortodox seria aquest.
És que el feia, utilitzo Eclipse i tinc la DT i tot això, i el feia perquè n'hi ha l'opció de Unity per passar els projectes a Eclipse directament.
Sí, si vols sí, però realment...
I el feia per aquest camí, però sí.
Però t'ho fiques sol,
Android de iPhone, vale,
I vols fer híbrid, això?
Per tema dels botons, fer-los amb natiu d'Android, després clicar
Home, però no bona idea, perquè si tu vols fer multiplataforma sempre t'interessa que sigui el més homogeni possible, no?
No, dic Android, dic. Vull dir, ficar per part d'interfeix, per exemple, ficar amb natiu d'Android,
Podries, el que passa que s'executa...
No té sentit el tema.
No, perquè és que el Unity s'executa en una finestra OpenGL, que és tot a full screen. Llavors, realment, queda al marge de les interaccions d'Android natives.
En teoria està bé, on està la depuració.
Sí, però em temo que a vegades alguns dispositius són una mica hack.
No, amb Eclipse va bé, perquè jo aquestes aplicacions...
Mira, això és, de fet, a la pàgina aquesta està linkada en les transparències. En el cas de Windows hi ha un problema amb els drivers, que resulta que no tots els dispositius connecten bé amb Windows. Doncs s'ha de fer, segons el fabricant i segons el sistema operatiu, s'ha de fer instal·lar drivers i tal.
Si el faig amb Linux i amb...
Linux...
No, Linux no, perquè no puc utilitzar Linux.
No, però és un problema.
És Eclipse. Pot ser un filtre.
Però és un problema, perquè en el teu dispositiu l'has de configurar adequadament perquè funcionin els USBs. I no... Depèn del dispositiu. En la documentació de Unity, per això, intenten resoldre una mica els problemes, de que si tens aquest fabricant, has de configurar aquest driver. Estan les transparències ja en link,
Jo miraré, però jo aquesta aplicació la vaig fer amb Unity, vaig poder posar i utilitzant Eclipse únicament configurant el projecte per Eclipse i Eclipse sí.
Des de Unity, des de Linux.
No, des de Windows Eclipse. Perquè Eclipse sí detecta
Doncs si vols provar-ho així, jo així no ho he fet mai, així. A mi sempre... Bueno, m'he hagut de barallar amb els dispositius, però sempre ho he fet directament. Sí, aquest pas intermig no l'he fet mai.
És que solo sabia fer-ho amb Eclipse i no em va aquest problema.
Pues si va estupendo.
Sí, sí.
A nivell d'estructura de codi, no sé què tot el temps. Jo, per exemple, ara mateix el que faig, amb múltiples projectes, faig un global data per compartir entre diferents scripts, perquè no siguin excessivament farragosos.
Vale.
Llavors, ara, per exemple, tinc aquí un dubte, perquè el vull passar amb... És un paint.
Vale.
Llavors, el que ara faré serà ficar-li aquí una interfàs gràfica per escollir quin nivell vull, reclutar la ruleta. Llavors, això ja m'ajuda una mica a veure què n'opines o un altre criteri. Ficaria aquí en el sistema d'interfàs gràfica, però els events aquí haurien d'atacar contra aquest, no ho vull fer directe, passaria per el global data, que és una variable temporal que aquí la llegís i l'actualitzés, o l'altra opció és ficar la part d'interfície aquí, però que seria una mica lleig.
Jo sempre el trauria fora, sempre és millor.
Sí, no?
Sí.
Vale. No sé, és que... Ara va bé això, compartir? Vale, sí. Tu una projecte allí també el veus bé? Ficant una variable...
Sempre és millor perquè tu després pots debugar, encara que no vinguis a través de la Wii. Sempre pots... O sigui, com indirecta, però aquesta funció l'escrius després.
Vale. Tots els socials, no?
Sí.
Allí feu un concurs de... Com és?
I Unity.
Sí, també?
Sí.
Vale. Jo l'any passat vaig fer l'entrevista tècnica allí. Vaig passar el que no vaig passar va ser els recursos humans. I, bueno, no, la curiositat. El que vaig veure és que només que teníeu l'any passat teníeu moltes coses fetes amb cocos 2D en iPhone i teníeu problemes amb... Bueno, necessiteu personal per Android.
Sí, també. Bueno, i ja es fa el Unity també. Sí, t'entrenarem amb tot.
No, vaig veure que una de les coses que tiraven enrere és que no treballeu en 3D en aquell moment.
Ara sí.
Sí.
Ara aquest any sí. Que no s'ha publicat res encara.
No sé, vam ensenyar tots els dracs i tot això i em van dir que no tenien pensat en fer res 3D.
Bueno, a curt termini no, però s'està fent. Sí. Has trobat alguna cosa, sí?
No deixa combinar el contingut multimèdia, però no...
Fail, bueno. Val, més o menys jo veig que hi ha gent que té problemes amb Android, és a dir,
Okay. There's a specific property of the Android devices, and that is that you have more ease of development because you don't need the digital signatures, but on the other hand, you always encounter drivers issues. Because, of course, the manufacturers are many, and each manufacturer interacts differently with the device, so it's not always easy or straightforward. In my experience with Android is that with Mac, you don't really have problems regarding the USBs, but now I am realizing that there are some new models of Samsungs which find it difficult to interact with Unity. So if you have a problem, we could look into it later, because it would be interesting to start working with your own devices.
Sí, sí. És a dir, quan tu tens el... Ah. Un simulador. Però és que no pots simular touches, ni acceleracions, ni res. No ho sé, vaja, crec que no. Vale. Ho tens, ell et genera un fitxer normal, vull dir, pots ficar després on vulguis. Jo crec que tot no. Bueno.
Pero, o sea, el Unity te, digamos, generas una APK.
Sí.
Pero tú esa APK no puedes abrir, o sea, ¿hay alguna manera de ver el código de la aplicación desde Eclipse, por ejemplo?
Pero el código de Unity no, eso está compilado ya.
Es completamente...
Sí.
Però d'allò sí que et deixa, no? O sea, no puedes combinar...
No, però et deixa, el codi de Unity no, et deixa uns delegates, unes històries, però el codi està compilat.
O sea, no hay manera de...
No, això no és el codi de Unity, això són delegates que linken cap al codi compilat ja.
No puedes probar...
Clar, sí, no te'l donaran, això és de pago. No és free software.
En realidad, o sea, que no puedes combinar la programación, digamos...
No, te podrías meter, te llega hasta donde te llega, que son los delegates y el vínculo entre el sistema operativo y el core, como si fuéramos.
Son cosas propias de...
Sí, sí, sí.
Ja tenim el projecte, no? Ara m'he vingut aquí, Android, però quines opcions agafo perquè em generi l'APK? Switch Platform?
Sí.
No, però jo no em vull connectar directament, tinc un emulador.
És igual, però tu fas així, tu fas switch.
Vale.
I li dius, en lloc de build and run, build a seques. Et generarà el paquet d'Android.
Ah, vale.
Sí?
Ara sí, és que no
Vale.
trobava l'opció.
Build and run construeix l'APK i l'envia cap al dispositiu. Build a seques et construeix l'APK i ja està. No, però per fer què? Per ficar-ho al dispositiu? És build and run. Build, construeix l'APK i després connecta el dispositiu i te l'envia.
Però el què? L'APK o només?
Sí.
Ah, vale. El que passa és que crec que ja no sé què.
Què és això? I per què no?
No et deixa?
Fica qualsevol cosa aquí. Sí. Tens l'APK i ja està. Pots implementar plugins, però això és una altra història. És a dir, tu el que pots fer és, si tu vols codi natiu d'Android, pots implementar...
Android native code, you can include the bundled code within a plugin. Let's say that you want to implement an e-commerce shop, retail shop, from Android. So you've got specific properties of Android. You have to bundle it, include it in a plugin, and then you can implement it from Unity.
Jo crec que sí que pots, l'únic que és, el sentit és al revés. És a dir, tens un plugin i la comunicació, la iniciativa ve des de Unity. Sí, sí. No, perquè realment tu has d'empaquetar-ho perquè ho vegi Unity, no al revés. Però el codi de Unity no te'l donen, perquè tu realment està tancat, sí. Que jo crec que no, però bueno. Hola.
Està capada la descàrrega d'arxius o alguna cosa? Perquè m'estic baixant el file i fotent una hora.
Què estàs baixant?
El driver del...
Capada, igual sí. No ho sé.
Perquè porto una hora per baixar 15 megas.
Igual sí que està capada.
De cara al control, tu has de programar per escritori, per mòbil, o sigui, quan compila no t'ho tradueix, no?
El què?
El
codi?
Si fas clic amb el ratolí, per navegador, per PC Mac, i vols construir-ho per mòbil, el Unity no t'ho...
Però no t'entenc, què vols dir?
Sí, si no ets programador
Sí.
i fas aquesta aplicació, no, per exemple, i vols que les barres pugin i baixin quan fas clic, no?
Sí.
Si tu dius compila'm-ho per dispositius mòbils, no té una manera de fer-t'ho tàctil.
Però és aquest codi que t'he ensenyat dels finger, el touch.
Vale, o sigui, l'has de ficar sempre.
Sí.
I si fas una aplicació que funcioni en el navegador, Mac, PC...
No, és mouse. Des de browser és mouse. Des de dispositiu mòbil és un touch. És diferent.
Vull dir que el controlador li has de ficar...
Has de tenir dos. Un per mouse i un altre per touch.
I quan t'ho compila, quan t'ho construeix, ja identifica, no?
No, ho has de dir tu. Has d'activar o desactivar un. Tens funcions que et diu m'estic executant en un dispositiu mòbil? Sí, doncs fes això. M'estic executant en un browser? Fes allò.
I quan li fas build...
No, el propi codi. El codi. If platform is browser...
Ok, vale. I en el que digues de la GUI,
Sí.
no hi ha una manera que tu faci com rotllo el responsive
No, les GUI sí que ho implementa automàticament i en el cas del GUI sí. És a dir, un touch és un touch en el dispositiu mòbil i en un browser és clic.
Vale. I el que fa les mides d'on ho mostra, no hi ha una manera de poder-li donar referència si automàticament s'adapta.
No, el que tens és quan fa d'ample, quan fa d'alt, i pots dir ajusta't a la dreta, a l'esquerra, a la baix, o més aquí, més allà.
Vale, o sigui, si vols tenir un menú centrat...
Has de calcular quin és el centre.
A tots els dispositius.
Sí, bueno, és width per dos.
Max width?
Sí. És una putada, però és així. Vale, seguim una miqueta. És a dir, si algú té...
Continue. If you have any problems with Androids, please just let us know. But the purpose would be, the idea would be to install our programs in a device, be it Android or iPhone. And you said to me that nobody has got a Windows phone, neither do I have a Windows phone to try this. But the specification of our project will be defined here. Here it's explained how you should do it. In theory, the port is configured, and the same thing goes for BlackBerry. BlackBerry is having something similar as iOS. You need to have an authorization system for the execution and so on. Personally, I've never tested this. I don't know what the system would be.
Vale. Llavors, volia explicar-vos ara una miqueta...
I want to tell you a little bit about some of the features you can develop with a mobile device. First of all, a nice thing about Unity is that working with different platforms is rather transparent. I mean, browser, standalone execution in a computer or in a mobile device. Usually the code does not vary that much. However, there is something we should all bear in mind, and it could be the source of a number of problems. It's the aspect ratio of screens, especially for Android, where there's more variability in type of sizes. The aspect ratio is the relationship between the length and the width of a screen. It might seem stupid, but when you create your menus or the interfaces you're creating, you usually do that in your local environment, and then you test it in screens which have a different aspect ratio, and they look totally different. This is usually the source of many problems, and we need to bear that in mind. If you're thinking about developing any app for mobile devices, bear in mind that your interfaces should always adapt to different aspect ratios, because there will be variations which are a little bit strange. Don't expect the same aspect ratio, especially in Android, where there's a high diversity of screens. This is important when developing for Unity in multi-platform systems. Another aspect is what happens with a mouse click if you're working with a given browser. If you're using Unity standard GUIs, the native ones, the system will be able to interpret whether you're using a browser or a device, and they will immediately map whether it is a touch from a finger or a mouse click, or if it's a button or whatever. It's able to do that. However, if you're implementing your own interfaces, such as the drag or the pan one or the zoom one, then you will have to make two versions, one for the mouse system so that you can execute it standalone in wherever you want to use it, and the other version, which would interpret the inputs provided by the touch screen. However, there are a number of functionalities which are only available in some devices, and I don't know how to test that in a computer in a way that would work similarly. One of these particularities is the accelerometer, which tells you what the inclination of the device is. This is very useful in Unity if you want to make a controller. For instance, if a car is moving along the road, you could maybe turn with the inclination, with the tilting of the screen, and that is allowed by Unity in a rather simple way. I don't know if you can see that from the back of the room. Basically, it's this part here. This is the interesting part. Again, Unity has got a static object with an attribute called acceleration, with a property called acceleration, and here you see the degree of acceleration in X and Y you're having at each point in time. These are variations since the last loop where this was checked. So in an update loop type, in each loop we're checking what has been the variation in X and Y. And based on this, then you would have access to the movement of the device. It'll be interesting if you already have this in your devices. It'll be interesting to identify what the acceleration at each point in time, and to be able to see that on the screen or on a label and see how the object is moving around. We also have microphones. That's something you can emulate from a computer. You can simply connect a mic to to the computer, and then you would have access to the microphone. Why can these be useful in terms of interaction? First of all, because you can record things which will then be replayed. And another interesting thing is to identify noises and noise intensities. When you turn the mic on, the result of turning the mic on is saved in an audio clip. I will show you how it works, but this is only an audio storage device. It could be WAP, an MP3 or other things, or something that you have recorded from your microphone. In the project, you download it from the internet. There's a script called the microphone could be a sound detecting device. This code will activate. First of all, it will activate the microphone. It will start recording, and this is like a loop. It's like a tape that is being it's going round. It can be configured in such a way, and then you can access the audio content as samples, and then you will have the floats sequence, and you can access that and do something with it, whatever you want. So this will identify changes in the sound, and it will identify the blow when you blow. This would be useful to trigger any action by blowing. This is what Unity allows you to do as well.
Vale, una altra cosa que és molt fàcil de fer servir.
Another interesting thing, which is very easy to use, is GPS location. If it's activated in your device, and if you have authorized it, when you launch the app, you will have the question. You'll be asked, this app is requesting access to the location of the device. If you allow the system to access that information, it will give you this information: latitude, altitude, longitude, horizontality, and you can track where the device is globally. It uses the GPS system. Of course, this needs to be available in the device. It's available in all Apples and in most Androids, and if it does have it, then you can use it, you can locate it. Of course, the user needs to authorize that. If you can't access the information, you can only access information from that device as long as the user has accepted it. The only specific feature of this location module is that these are asynchronous queries. It was a little bit different from what we've seen so far. We could take it as a leap of faith, and that this is an asynchronous query, and then you will see how this works. But when you implement an enumerator in this way, it will give you access to start, and it will go back to the beginning, and we can lock this situation because the geolocation doesn't give you an immediate answer. If you ask the device, you request the global position, and it takes a little while. It's not immediate, so you can't stall the execution here. So what Unity proposes you to do is to do an asynchronous query, and then to release it or to free it whenever you want. Several things can happen with geolocation. First of all, that access has not been granted. Even if you want to know where the device is located, maybe the user doesn't allow it, and then you will get access. You could also have a time out. And maybe you're in a cave, you can't be located, there's error and so on, you can't be given the position, and then you will finish with a timeout. Another possibility is that there's been a mistake in locating for whichever reason, we don't know why, but sometimes it does happen, it can't find it. But if everything works well, then we will get these positions. Why What can you use these positions for? You can connect to maps systems, or you can use whatever you were thinking about using, and we can use these locations to interact with third-party systems such as Google Maps and so on through the API. I wanted to propose some exercises. I don't know if we have that much time, but still, 15 minutes. Well, no, it's going to be homework then. I wanted to tell you something. I wanted to have an exercise that will put into practice what we have learned. For instance, examples with the accelerometer, taking the accelerometer and seeing how you can control an object through the scaling and so on. You would see how it moves. Another possibility is finding the location of the device and then use it in a context that you could come up with. Maybe you could use a map, and if you know the coordinates, you can locate where you are in the device. That's relatively easy. Another more complex thing is to use the microphone as an interaction tool. The example that I mentioned identifies where there's been a blow or not, but you can also identify intensity. I've seen a game where you need to blow, and the stronger you blow, the higher the ball goes or whatsoever. This could be one possibility. So you need to know the intensity of the microphone, the intensity of the signal the microphone is identifying. And finally, if you have any questions, if you want to have any clarifications and so on, this would be the time to ask. And then there are some things that I think it's interesting to discuss and to work with Unity. I don't know if we have that much time.
I 50. Queden 10 minuts, llavors podem fer...
It's left. We can either do questions about things that were not clear, or I can tell you a little bit more about what this is all about.
Segueixo? Vale.
Continue? Okay. Let me give you a hint about these few things that seem interesting to me and that are interested in Unity. Plugins. How can I access typical Android functionalities from Unity? You can't do that straight away. Unity has got functionalities which are like the basic package, which is common for all devices. However, if for any reason you need to access something which is specifically for one device or for one platform and so on, Unity will give you a plugins mechanism, so you can implement something outside of Unity where you would have a native code of the platform you're developing, and then you can communicate one thing with the other. So Unity explains how to do a plugin. The only problem is that this is specific for each platform. There's a plugin for Android, another one for iOS, and so on and so forth. But you can extend this. You can extend Unity's functionality for something that they had not been come up with, or that they don't think is common for all devices, and therefore they don't contemplate it. So you could extend Unity to other devices. So, Asset Server. This is a repository of projects which works through Unity. For collaborative work, you can work in teams, but you need the pro version. If you can, for instance, share one project with different people, and you can do commits, updates, update what your colleagues have done, and so on and so forth. So you can interact in the same project all at once. GITs. If you have not worked with GITs, this is a sort of a repository, but it's very powerful with code. And you can configure the Unity project so that it can work through GIT. It can work with binary files. It doesn't matter if it's not code, but it's really advisable to work with GIT. Even if the team is a one-person team, it's important to have the code in a repository, because in that way you can work in separate branches. You can make as many disasters as you want, but you will have a branch which is clean, or you can go back doing a rollback, and if your computer crashes, you know that you will have a repository somewhere else and you will be able to recover that. This is solved in different ways. This is It's a little bit more user-friendly from a developer point of view, but it's from the Pro version. This one has got lots of low-level functionalities, and unless you know about Git, this JT system, if you know a little bit about it, you will be able to Git. You will be able to use it, and it's free. This can be configured, and then you also have the test flight. It's really cool. It's useful for testing. This allows you to upload apps to the cloud, to these people's cloud, and the people who collaborate with you will then be able to install or to download this app from here. Imagine you're working with somebody else who's living in a different country, or you want someone to assess your program, or you want to show it to him or to her, or whatever. It's still in a development stage. There is no version published in any iPhone or Android store. Well, you can configure the app to be uploaded there and send a link to the person that you authorize to download it, and then the person can download it and install it on his or her device, and it can be done remotely. You don't need to be there. This is very useful when you work in teams. If you're working with people who are not physically there, then you can upload a version to test flight, and then they can download it and test it in their own devices. It's useful for teamwork.
Y ya está. Si tenéis algún duda.
And that's basically it. If you have any doubts, I'll be happy to try and answer. This is free. Yes, it is.
Sí, Apple y Android.
Apple and for Android. But you need to have a signed, well, the person needs to be signed in, otherwise you would not be able to install it. You can bundle it up. Imagine the person sends by email the identifier of his device. You include it in the signature chain. You unbundle it and you save it. You unbundle it, and then you can install this and run it.
Sí. Sí, sí, en el caso de Android no hay tanto problema, pero...
Android, there isn't that much of a problem.
¿El? Es que eso nació para Apple. Apple sí que más problemas, sí, sí. Bueno, de hecho, a ver, és que... Això d'aquí, en realitat, és la punta de l'iceberg. En realitat, molts errors...
Like the tip of the iceberg, lots of...
generació de codi automàtic com el...
compare this with automatic code systems. They compile what has been done during the day. It's sent to TestFly, and there's a team of testers who test this out, and they test the latest version, so you can automate some mechanisms.
¿En equipo hay muchos problemas para hacer la sincronización de los ficheros binarios?
A veces sí.
Sí, ¿no?
Hay una... No, tampoco lo soluciona, perfecto. Es decir, son binarios, la cosa es difícil. Sí.
It's more difficult. If it's really binary such as an image, you can't do that. You need to choose between one or the other. It is just impossible. In the latest Unity versions, you can add this as metadata in each one of the files. Are they all images, video, binary, everything? The code is code, but binary images of images and so on, they are uploaded as binary format. Git allows you to upload it as binary. It doesn't treat it differently. If there are 3 or 4 people working in a team, sorry, we can't hear these comments without a mic.
No, pero entonces ahí tienes un conflicto. No, ahí tienes un conflicto que tienes que resolver.
A conflict that you would need to solve then, if one of the two is not going to make a merge. if both update at the same time and one does a pull to do a merge, then you will find that it doesn't fit. So you will be asked, which one do you prefer, this one or the other one? You will be able to choose, but that's an issue. You can't copy a texture, so it's either one or the other. Whenever there's a code conflict, it's binary. In the case of code, if there is a conflict, you would get a GIF and then you would do whatever you need to do. But if it's binary, you need to choose between one or the other. And that happens in both. You would need to have a metadata system that could be activated or not, but that metadata system will allow you to merge some files, and it can, well, save you from some trouble.
Sí, para vender material, ya. Sí, sí.